We're back. It's your movie review, man, and we're reviewing Dune. I'm Jeff Johnson, and this is
Claude Faitier.
Dune 2021. Gotta see what year it's at. It's important in a lot of ways, right? First, it's another take on the multi-book science fiction epic, and it is epic. I remember just as a kid trying to slog through just the Dune book. I never read the whole trilogy, or is it a quintuple G or a sextuple G?
There are a lot of books.
I just couldn't do it.
A lot of books.
I couldn't. That was a lot of reading. It was hard enough to get through the original Dune. And as a consequence, over the decades, trying to come up with an adaptation of Dune has been challenging. But Claude and I gave our quick take on this movie already with our Power Fist ratings. I gave it 3 Power Fists out of 4, and Claude gave it
3.5.
So you could tell that we felt like they did a pretty good job. So Claude, how did you get the 3.5, almost a perfect score?
Well, you know what? I think in terms of the expectations that I had of the movie, it just did an amazing job. Now, you hinted around something. You said something earlier this week, and I just feel that you had not said the line. So I am going to attribute this to you. You said that the movie was done so well that it makes one wonder why it was so challenging to adapt the book. And I think, to me, if there's like a key sentence, that is what it is. I would honestly say that in terms of the writing, they did a very good job in terms of setting up the plot elements. And you know, there was a certain clarity to the story that you know, the first movie that I really liked. You know, I liked the David Lynch version. I guess they were trying to figure out how to tell the story, because if I remember correctly, they had lobby cards that were explaining parts of the story. So if you need to give people Cliff Notes before going to the movie, then evidently, you know, you felt like, you know, maybe the movie did not completely cover the story.
Didn't tell the whole story.
But it was the one that cracked the nut, though, and that was the thing. I mean, I think, and I, you know, going back to the original, I think that movie had to have been done to sort of figure out or give the compass for future adaptations. And I will get into that a little later on. But I honestly felt like, you know, they did a very good job in terms of setting everything up. It not only, you know, created the setting, it established the dynamics in terms of what was happening with the planet. And so it was easy to follow. That accompanied with the, you know, wonderful performance. You have a sense that Duke Leto is very cautious. He's not a fool going into the situation, doesn't necessarily know all the pieces or is able to see the pieces, but there's a sense of foreboding. His son who's played by Timothée Chalamet. You definitely have a sense of he's more of a brooding teenager, you know, and he also picks up a, you know, sort of like a sense of Dune. And you see also a very good connectedness between the family. The family, in my opinion, was more defined in terms of Lady Jessica not being, you know, officially married, but she is actually very high ranking, and you know, and you sort of see her value in terms of what she taught her son, which was, you know, which was another, you know, improvement in terms of the story. So plot elements were very solid. How about you? Well,
oh yeah. Again, thanks for that attribution of saying what was all the fuss about. Yeah, I mean, that is a good reason to give it high praise, right? The long-awaited feature-length film, then multi-part television series. Finally, they dropped this film, and I think you're right. There are a lot of aspects of it that they just did a wonderful job of you know, adapting it to film and giving you dimensions that perhaps are even deeper than the other versions had, and squeezing it in. Now, they still squeezed it into, what was our runtime? 2 hours, 35, was it? It still was a long runtime, but they got those things in there more completely. The relationship of Paul Atreides to his mother, Lady Jessica Atreides, who gets him both royalty from his dad and the witching powers that her mom has, without having to spend a whole lot of time explaining it. That's what books are for. That's why it's 6 friggin' books, and the Dune book by itself was 500 pages plus a glossary. Ladies and gentlemen, a book that requires a glossary of terms. That was scary for a high schooler. Please give me some lasers and a couple of aliens to shoot, please, and a few exploding stars. A glossary? Yeah. You don't, films need to tell stories differently than that. They need to tell them visually, they need to tell them verbally, they need to tell them non-verbally, in pantomime, if you will, but not in, long exposition and background about how his mom's a witch and what does it mean to be a witch. And to your point, the family relationship, that he's not married to the Duke, but he gave her his son, he loves her, and he regrets that he never married her. No, you put together a good screenplay, you drop all those elements in there.
Yeah, and they come out naturally.
They come out naturally without you having to spell them all out. And this movie did a wonderful job of that, period, dot. Okay, hard segue number one. You talked me into watching another science fiction cult classic television series called Firefly, which had a spinoff, Serenity, and I kept waiting for it to show up on a streaming service so I could finally watch it, and now it's on 2 streaming services that I have, so I'm binge watching Firefly and then I'm gonna watch Serenity. Why am I bringing this up? Because in that TV series, they kept speaking Chinese. They didn't explain that in the future, folks have Western cowboy slang because it's the wild, wild universal West, but they also use curse words and slang in Chinese because we're in the future state of the world, and somehow on the planet Earth, before it got all blown up, Mandarin's dominant, and people speak, not Spanish, English, Spanglish. They speak, Chinese, English, I don't know, Chinese Glish, right? Why am I bringing that up? In Dune, they showed how the Duke Atreides, he's royalty. He speaks many languages plus his mom's witch language. So they're just dropping in and out of, I think it was Japanese. Like his doctor is Japanese, and his mother had taught the son sign language. So when they're in trouble or when they're in danger, or she's trying to, send secret messages to her son, she's sign languaging her son on the side. Again, in a book, it's totally easy to do in a novel. In a film, it takes masterful cinematography and staging to get that all in there without being distracting or not cover enough. And somehow, again, I just want to point that out, and plus my hard segue to your recommendation for me to watch Firefly and Serenity, that the Duke is highly educated. So yes, he's multilingual, plus his mom taught him witchcraftery, so he knows the witchcraftery languages, and mom taught him sign language, so they secretly pass notes to each other in sign language. Plus, he's smart enough to have researched the language of the people where he's going, and so he can communicate with people. All of that I thought was just excellently done. It was just well done as they craft out this universe. It's not world building. They have to create the universe of the environment in which our story is being told in, while still telling some anachronistically cool features. They haven't even leaned in on some of the anachronisms that are found in the Dune book. You just have to roll with it, right? You just have to roll with it. These folks travel through space. They have not time travel. That hasn't come into this, but they have space travel, and they're somehow able to merge time and space through the benefit of this precious resource. And they don't spend much more time on it in this version than they did on the others. And that was a good choice. Good choice. Just move on. Just move on. There's a precious resource, folks are willing to kill over it. It allows interstellar space travel, so humans do just like we normally do. Divide it up, fight over it. Have fiefdoms, have a royalty system with fiefdoms, dukes and earls, and they use the terms dukes so that you can at least hang on to the fact that there are political structures, and there's the haves and there's the have-nots, and the haves are fighting over things together, and sometimes the king wants the haves to fight over each other so they don't try to make a play for the crown. And that's the kind of politics that we're thrust into in this story of Dune. So yeah, looking at it and saying they made it look easy. Yeah, all these complexities. They did a really nice, easy job of showing, not telling with note cards or glossaries.
You know what? And I was just thinking, as you just pointed out about the sign language, it also sort of sets up the whole idea of he's at a point where he's sort of developing, the voice, the voice. So you sort of have like a non-verbal communication thing that's happening. Although the voice is not supposed to be things that we're supposed to conventionally hear, but there is this connectiveness he has in terms of being able to communicate situations with
Right.
so I'm glad you pointed that out. That's actually, I didn't think about it till you just said it.
Yeah.
Another thing that I liked about this movie is the fact that it was extremely like beautiful to look at. I guess, I can honestly say that a number of times I felt like, when they were showing, shots of Arrakis and some of the dream sequences, it looks like there's certain parts that look like a National Geographic picture. And I would bother to say, I saw this on I saw this on HBO. I definitely am not quite theater ready, but I am, as things become safer, and I know that it's probably going to be maybe another 2 years till we get to see the part 2 of this movie. I am hoping, and I think a friend said that they possibly may re-release this before the second movie come out, which they will. And I'm hoping at that time I'm going to be definitely more confident in terms of going, into the theater, because I think the big shots, I mean, definitely beautiful to look at. Closer shots, it was like they were sort of aware that this was probably going to be on TV. So I thought it was a very good mixture of both. But I have to honestly say, as satisfying as it was, I definitely feel that this needs to be a big screen experience. And I definitely, will, pay to go see it. I hope they do re-release it before the sequel comes out. And, hopefully things are better. I'm assuming things are going to be we'll be in a better situation. I will definitely go to the theater to see it.
I agree. That would be smart. And if they put a little sauce on it, right? From my research, it looks like, they shot it for IMAX, so they made an IMAX release version. Same as you, I watched it on streaming service. It was highly anticipated. They've been talking about it for a ridiculous long amount of time. So I didn't want to wait. In my case, I didn't want to wait to try to find a window of opportunity to see it in the theater. I didn't know it was on IMAX. And so I was happy to watch it and enjoy the cast and the crew and see it, on, the best television I have in my house. And it was a great streaming experience. But to your point, if they want to put some sauce on it, when they do the parts 2 of the film, they of course ought to re-release the part 1 and then drop it in IMAX. Take it up a notch. I don't know if they shot it in 3D IMAX or not. Nowadays all the stuff's being shot digitally. So many different films are shooting things with digital IMAX, and they've got the digital IMAX down to a chest size handheld camera, as demonstrated by a couple of cinematographers and directors we like. Digital IMAX is in play these days. So hopefully they'll do that. But that brings me to the reason why it's 3 stars and not 4. Well, first up, 4 is a very, very, very high praise for a film. And maybe this film was approaching 4 stars, but the one reason for me why it didn't get there, I'll move to that portion of our review here, is one reason it didn't get there is because you're watching it. You're 2 hours, 30 minutes in. I'm loving the cast. I'm loving the scenery. I'm loving, as you told, the ease for which they are moving through what we know is a large volume of storyline in the books. But yet in the film, they're moving at a nice clip and pace that's not throwing you off, not hitting you with techno babble, and also not blowing off so much the film is lacking the core essence of what I remember from the books. It's doing a great job, and then it gets to a point and it says roll credits. What? Huh? I'm just acting. It really felt like you just finished, really just the first act. I mean, it was great. 2 hours and 35 minutes, such that, for the most part, if you prepared yourself for 2 hours and 35 minutes, it didn't feel like it was 2 hours and 35 minutes, but it felt like it was just the first act. And literally, a character says, and this is only the beginning. Roll credits.
Well, you know what? I could understand the frustration. I'd honestly say that I think I've gotten inoculated after The Empire Strikes Back in terms of, an ending where you wanted more. I think that this, completed a good part of the story and it left you yearning. Now it's going to be 2 years worth of yearning. So going back old school to original Star Wars, where we had to wait a couple years between each movies. They're not doing, not doing it like they did Lord of the Rings and all these other ones. But yeah, no, I could understand, because it definitely, it feels incomplete, but I didn't think it was a bad incomplete, because I honestly felt that they had gotten through a big chunk of the story. We saw the character had gotten to a certain place of growth. And I was just enjoying this so much that I was basically, yes, I wanted probably a little more, but I knew that they had so much more to go in with the story that this was actually a good stop for me. So I did not take away points from it. Because after the knee-jerk reaction from The Empire Strikes Back, and that to me, and that's one of my that is on the list of one of my 10 best movies ever.
Yes.
But man, did I feel like, what the? This is it? You're gonna leave me? You're gonna leave me like this for a couple of years, And
Empire Strikes Back definitely left you like wanting more. That's not quite the same as this. This is certainly, if you know what Dune is, you watch it and you're like, dude, you just did the first part. I don't know how it feels for a person who has no idea about what the story is. Again, maybe they will feel like you're saying they'll have enjoyed it all the way up to here and then wonder where the next adventure is. My point is somehow I was unaware of the fact that this was all they were going to give us. I'm sorry I missed it. I mean, I guess I should have known, because I know how big the story is. I know how it was put into television series. But I'm sitting here watching this and I'm like, wait, huh? I should have done my homework. And so that's why I'm happy to share with you, audience, this fair warning. It is not a spoiler. This is setting you up for success, that they're going to do more films. And they do a nice job enough here that you should look forward to the second and third film, and maybe that will engage you into enjoying the film. Claude and I's review of the Halloween, the most recent Halloween series, the 2018-2021 Halloween, that they already pre-advanced told you it's going to be 3 of them. So when the 2020-something third one comes, well, that actually was endearing to me. I was like, well, okay, I'm intrigued enough to go and watch 2018 film, watch the 2021, knowing that there's going to be a third. And I was fine with it, and I enjoyed it. This one, I just have to say I was blindsided. It's my fault. I was blindsided. You don't have to have that fault, audience. It was my fault. I was blindsided. I was like, I'm enjoying this. This is great. And you're like, really? You're really gonna tell me this is just the beginning?
Jeff, it definitely was your fault. You should have known. You should have known better, because I could sort of tell how the story was moving along. They weren't going to be able to finish it.
You're like, there ain't enough time.
What's crazy, Jeff, is that you were the one, because when I saw the original one, and I did not care for the original one, but they had a second version that was specially made for TV. An expanded version of the David Lynch one that had extra exposition, because I did not completely understand the story. And you were the one who finished explaining the story to me. And so you definitely should have known better, because you read the book, you know the pacing of the story. You should have looked at it maybe 2 hours, 15 minutes and say, wow, this is going to be a lot of stuff to get to these worms.
I got a lot of stuff they got to finish.
You should have known. So it is your fault. I don't think you should fault the movie for that. That was caveat emptor. You know, you need... I was the least. I was the only one. I was probably one of the few friends that didn't read Dune. I had to. Wasn't crazy about I liked David Lynch as a director, but his shorter version was. I liked the expanded one that he took his name off of, and we were talking about it after that, because that's when I could finally get into these Dune discussions. So you knew better.
I should have known better, and now all of you know better. Yeah. Hey, what do they say? Don't wait for the movie. Don't wait for the book. Hey, don't wait for the getting all parts of the book. No, it just covers the first part. That's the first act. 2 hours, 30 minutes, the first act. It's a well done first act. As we're telling you here, you'll enjoy the first act. You're going to love all your stars in it. They're amazing. The hits keep them coming. Okay. Yeah. For every sci-fi person out there,
amazing. Casting was an amazing cast.
Yeah, for sci-fi friends, you get them all. You get them all. You get Oscar Isaac. That's Poe Cameron. You get a little Star Wars action. You get a little Aquaman action because Jason Momoa's in there, and he's Jason Momoa. I mean, you know, again, whatever you were expecting from the Duncan, Idaho character, it's just the same as Aquaman. You like Jason Momoa's version better. Moving on. Is he what you thought Duncan, Idaho was going to be? Who cares?
Yeah, but well, you know what? I actually
get Jason Momoa's version.
I agree with you, but you have to admit Duncan, Idaho is a badass name. I'm sorry.
It's an awesome name.
Fiction is a great name if you're doing an action movie. If you're about to get in a fight and someone named Duncan Idaho's got your back, you know that you're going to be good. So
it's awesome. Look, so Stellan Skarsgård, he's so evil and foul. I had to look it up to realize that's him playing Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. He's buried in the character. He's awful. He's evil, and you're just like, who's an awful evil man? You have to look it up. It's the guy you like. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One thing. I had to get used to the Harkonnen way that they pronounced it. You know, I always remember the first time they said Harkonnen in the original version. Harkonnen just really stuck with me. Planet Harkonnen, you know,
it stuck on you.
Harkonnen just seemed like, you know, this version of Harkonnen, I had to get used to that because I'm just so used to the other one just sounded more evil. Harkonnen, you know.
Okay, it may sound more evil, but they fully embodied the evil, right? They lived up to it, even if it wasn't pronounced as evilly.
Well, I think he, like you said, his acting. He was sort of like visibly big and grotesque in a different way.
In a different way. In the first film, they just hit you with grotesque skin and grotesque behavior. This guy's grotesque, of course, in the way that he needs to be for the storyline, and just how treacherous.
Yeah, which I think was a good choice. I think the first choice worked for a David Lynch movie because I think that whole thing in terms of with the pimple and the boil, you just have a sense that all these things are secreting out of him because he's so damn greedy to control, all his stuff.
Greed just can't pop out of skin.
It's really disgusting. When the whole, I mean, and I think both of them were fine. I mean, we could go into that a little later on.
But wait, honestly, there's more. I think
Stellan Skarsgård is great.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's totally foul. Stephen McKinley Henderson. Everybody may not know him by his name, but you know him when you see him. He's awesome. He was in Fences. He's the brother man with the excellent afro and beard. He's great. He's great to look at every time you see him. Okay. Josh Brolin, ladies and gentlemen, Thanos is back. He's also Cable, but he'll be Thanos forever, which is crazy because you can't really tell that he's Thanos with the blue skin and the triple chin. But all the sci-fi fans know it's Josh Brolin, and Josh Brolin is Gurney Halleck is awesome. And then you're watching along, and you're like, whose accent is that? Who's that person talking? It's Javier Bardem. Yes, it is Javier Bardem. Everybody's up in here. Javier Bardem and all of them are in this movie. Sharon Duncan Brewster. I'm not sure I've seen Sharon Duncan Brewster before, but she's awesome. She plays a very complex character in this film, and as the kind of agent of the Emperor. But she's
Liet Kynes. She played Liet Kynes. That was the
Dr. Liet Kynes.
Yeah, that was a part that Max von Sydow played in the original. So yeah, that was great that they put her in there.
Oh, that's outstanding.
And created more of a sense of ambiguity in terms of not completely trusting the Emperor, but then also not knowing if you could trust her. You know,
correct.
It was just great balance.
Chang Chen, and which might mean that I have to make a correction on how they were speaking to each other. Where they were speaking, I said it was Japanese, but perhaps it was Chinese the whole time. Chang Chen, he had a part in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He plays the pivotal role of Dr. Wellington Yue, who both I don't know. Is it a spoiler to explain exactly what it is? It's a spoiler, so I won't say. But he's the doctor of the family doctor. And as I mentioned to you, the coolness of how the royal family knows multiple languages. So they're just dropping in and out of languages. And so perhaps I'm in error. And perhaps they were speaking Chinese when I thought for sure it was Japanese. You all put it in the comments, and I'll make my apologies. The coolness part about it is that I can't tell the difference and can't speak either of the two languages, but Duke Atreides can, and sign language and a bunch of other languages, which well-educated, caring leader would do, right? His family is setting about to, provide good and just leadership, and they're multilingual. And so his relationship with Dr. Wellington Yue is the doctor tries to whisper to him, some advice so he could succeed and survive. And he whispered it to him, not in English. And that was cool. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Dave Bautista, our big guy. Dave Bautista comes in as one of the Harkonnen, or Harkonnens, if you like it, evil, musclehead killing types. It's awesome. It's just awesome. It's just awesome having him. You've got your Guardians of the Galaxy action going on there. You're just gonna like it. And we're not done. We're still not done with all the cast. But what they just tease you, of course, with Zendaya, that part we've already spoiled for you, is that Zendaya is in the second and third act. She's only introduced in the first act and teased, and also gives the ridiculous, "This is only the beginning, roll credits." Mm-hmm. Why you do that to me? Why you have my girl drop that on me? Mm-hmm. It's 2.5 hours and 30 minutes. It
sort of works, though. It definitely works because of who the main character is, and in terms of him sort of like meeting her in these dreams. And, we're at a point where, you're introduced to her. You sort of, in a way, are waiting to get to see who she is.
Yes.
By getting to her and then finding out how she fits in the plan and everything later on.
There's just all of this. There's all this buildup, right? There's all of this anticipation about the importance of a character, and of course, those of us who love Zendaya as an actor are like, "Well, hurry up, hurry up. We want to see Zendaya playing this significant character, and we see her significantly character just long enough for I'm going to say wait till next time. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, next time is 2023. And they have the clever title, Dune Part 2. Ladies and gentlemen, I should know better, and I do now. And I'm warning you, Dune Part 2 is just the second part. Meaning not finished. Meaning they'll do Dune Part 2, and then Zendaya will turn and look into the camera. But
well, I don't know if that's gonna be. Is it broken up into 3 films? It may be just 2. It may be just 2 movies. I don't think they said they're gonna break it up into a trilogy, or did they?
So we'll have to research and throw it into the credits.
I think they're planning 2 movies. I think.
You think they're gonna get it all done?
Don't quote me on that because I don't work at Warner Brothers. And
you think they're gonna get it all done, Clint? So then I'll tease you.
Yeah.
I think saying that you think they could get it done in 2 parts.
I think so.
Even in their descriptions, they don't say, "Hey, we're finally wrapping this sucker up in the second piece."
Okay.
So maybe they will, maybe they won't.
No, hey. I haven't. I heard I heard 2 movies, but I did not. I heard it was half of the story, and then it was going to. I don't think they're gonna. That'd be horrible to lead us on for 6 to 9 years. That would suck.
Oh, you can't take it?
We already took it. We already took it. They showed they didn't need to do it, so don't do it anymore.
So it's Dune 2021. You'll be watching this review again in 2023 saying, what did the movie review men have to say about it? Mm-hmm. We said 3 stars and 3.5 stars. We liked it a lot. Mm-hmm. We thought it was pretty good. We think it'll hold up. That's what a 3.5 stars means. It'll hold up second.
Yeah, and the reason I gave it 3.5 is that one thing is that as amazing as this movie was, I could not quite separate it from like the earlier movies, and that's what I was. That's the thing. I mean, had it been able to, and maybe it's unfair, and I'll probably get some hate mail for this, but the truth of the matter is, the first attempt to make the movie established a lot of things and did a number of they did a number of things in terms of what worked and what didn't work. And I could definitely say as enjoyable as this version was, it was a wonderful viewing experience. It was wonderful acting, the production design in terms of the ships, the ships that had the fluttering wings,
yes.
and nice. All that stuff. Definitely on point. Were there any particular scenes? There were probably a couple of scenes where I remember the dialogue, where it was like the one that they even have in the trailer where the father said, if you don't become anything more than my son, then now, I would be proud of you, and certain things right. Like that. The one thing I remember about, I guess the first movie is that you had a bunch of little delicious lines that you could use later on, the spice.
I will kill him.
I will kill him. And there were like a couple other things. The sleeper has awakened, Father. The sleeper has awakened. You just had a bunch of there were certain things the original ones that in terms of what it got right. There was that definite sort of like certain little magical moments that you could take with you. And they sort of worked. I guess and there were a bunch of other things. There was a sense of danger. Kyle MacLachlan, who played Paul Atreides in the first movie, he played sort of like more of I would say more like shucks, sort of like a boy who did not quite know what was going on. He seemed like he was sort of like a prince who was sort of looking at this like it was some type of adventure, whereas Timothy Chalamet did more of a brooding prince, which I thought both choices I thought were really cool. And I think honestly there was more a sense of tragedy with the Timothy Chalamet version, but
yes.
But Kyle MacLachlan's version also worked for what they were doing. And in terms of sort of getting through the narrative stuff, I mean, I think that the first movie stepped through a lot of, landmines in terms of adapting this thing.
Sure.
I think it still struggled. And honestly, I had to say the TV version where they added an extra hour or 40 minutes actually sort of helped me out, you know. And but it did a lot of things. And also in terms of how they presented the Harkonnens, they really just sort of made them really disgusting and vile. I mean, you had the you know, they seemed very sadistic. They seemed like the kind of people that you know, they were villains. The you know, the royal families were sort of in a way sickened by, but these were people who could take down this popular prince. You had the whole deception, using needles and knives to get through people. Which definitely just sort of lent to this. You know, it added such an extra menace. And when you were describing to me how they had that whole thing with the heart plugs in that first movie about basically how fishing lines attached to your arteries and they could just pull them. I mean, that's just
Gross.
they went over. They straight out went over the top in a jacked up delicious way in terms of how vile and deceitful and disgusting these Harkonnens were. And so the first one, I mean, I had a lot of good things in there. I think, and I think in terms of a look, there were certain things that were imprinted that I could not quite take away from this new version. Although this new version is a prettier movie, there was better world building. They went to different countries to convey the sense of you know, the different worlds that were
Different
there.
worlds between where the Harkonnens were coming from and where they're going.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting to see how much more, how they're going to be able to do that when they stay on the Sand Planet the entire time for the second film, how they'll be able to do that. And they can, of course, where the storyline takes us, right? Because the storyline has not yet taken us to where and how the Fremen survive. We have not gone to the Fremen homes yet, right? We were just at the dangerous, deadly, ruthless portion of living on the Sand Planet, and the movie ends with "Follow us. We're going to take you where the Fremen are at."
Yeah, yeah.
And how we live and thrive and survive. And it will be interesting seeing these things done, you know, decades later now, when we've seen so many different science fiction movies of different types of world building. You know, this isn't post-apocalyptic. It's a sand planet. It was always a sand planet. It wasn't once, well, no spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sand planet. So it's not like planet Earth that was nuked and then now look how terrible it is. And like Road Warrior, right?
Yeah.
No, it was always a sand planet.
Mm-hmm.
And these people who live here and survive and thrive here and have desert poetry and talk about living a life like the sand mouse. I think that's one of the lead characters' multiple names.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Desert mouse, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't read the book, it is a thing I tease Dune about all the time. The lead character has 5 names. That's too many names for a book.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have a film with your lead character. You can't do it. There are several films.
But this guy's getting an A. He's getting an A for effort. I sort of see the different names, you know, in terms of similar to reading the, you know, like the autobiography of Malcolm X, where he goes through different parts of his life and he becomes somebody different.
And he has 3.
Mm-hmm.
3. And it's a book.
Mm-hmm.
Movies, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. No, do it. I'm reading the book. I am actually enjoying it, and I actually haven't been looking at the glossary too much. It was enough context clues for me to sort of figure out where it's going.
Trivia question will be coming up in the Black History Month. Hey, it's Black History Month on Movie Review Man show all the time. What are the 3 names for Malcolm X? Put it in the chat. But he's not 5. He's not Muad'Dib, Kwisatz Haderach, Paul Atreides. What was the other one?
Oh, there's Paul Atreides, Paul Muad'Dib. Okay, wait. Okay, well, I haven't finished. I'm 3/4 of the way there, dude. So don't test me yet. But
Yeah, it's too many names.
yeah.
But they do a nice job with it in this film, and it's enjoyable streaming. If you have access to see it before it disappears from theaters, you'll probably be able to enjoy the majesty and amazingness of it then. And then when 2023 comes and they drop parts two, watch us again. Watch our review again.
Okay.
Watch the film. Watch this first 2021 film again, maybe in IMAX. We hope that. Watch them together. Don't watch them together. 2.5 hours plus another 2.5 hours. Give yourself some sleep in between. Get a chance to appreciate the beauty of it and watch the next one.
Well, seeing that we're sort of making suggestions, I would actually say that if you're biding your time between the 2 years, I recommend seeing the original Dune, which came out in 1984. And if anything, I would probably try to check out, see if they have a special edition, which has, the theatrical version and the expanded TV version, which, basically does a better job of starting up, the narrative of the story. Another movie I like to recommend is actually about the sort of like the quest of to a failed attempt to make the movie a long time ago, because they've been trying to do this for a long time. So it was a movie that came out in 2013 called Jodorowsky's Dune, which follows Jodorowsky. Oh God, what's his first name? He's basically a well-known Spanish film director who's done El Topo, and he's done a lot of amazing sort of like cult movies. And he created, it was a number of years he attempted to adapt Dune. And although this was a failed attempt, the one thing that was absolutely amazing in terms of him pitching the idea is that the failure of getting that movie done led to a very important success in terms of science fiction storytelling. He was pitching this idea. He had people like Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the original screenplay for Alien, because Dan O'Bannon had worked with John Carpenter on Dark Star and wanted to do more special effects. He had recruited H.R. Geiger to come up with plans for the Harkonnen planet and other things. H.R. Geiger, also very influential artwork that was the cyberpunk movement from the 80s and 90s, came up with the biomechanical design of the alien creature, which we forever are still, to this day, is influencing science fiction. You had artists like Chris Foss. You had a producer, Gary Kurtz, who produced Star Wars, afterwards. Douglas Trumbull, who was a well-known special effects artist on a bunch of movies. You basically had a big accumulation of talent. And Pink Floyd was going to be, he wanted them to do the music. I think he had recruited, I think was it Mick Jagger? I think even David Bowie. I probably have to double check that. But he was going to also have the surrealist artist Salvador Dali play, a major role. So, I mean, his guy, I'm hearing, he's done a lot of crazy things. But the documentary is utterly fascinating because, in terms of his hustle, in terms of his, the vision that he had, and the fact that even though this movie was not made, that the concept art, a lot of the ideas had many, basically had many film children and, just
Sure.
It had a big impact that's still being seen in science fiction and comic book movies today, period. So Jodorowsky's Dune, which came out in 2013, definitely check that out. And again, the original Dune by David Lynch. It was made in 1984. I would recommend, if you have the time, take a look at the theatrical version. And again, if they happen to have the special, TV version. I haven't seen the TV movie by the Sci-Fi Channel, so I can't speak on that one. The only thing I know about that movie, that TV movie, is that Vittorio Storaro, who shot He did the camera work for Apocalypse Now and some amazing movies. Did the camera work here, but I have not seen the one by Sci-Fi Channel. So you'll venture that on your own. That's another version. I don't know. It could be good. I know it'll definitely look good. Vittorio Storaro shooting it.
Hey, but watch it just for compare and contrast so you can understand what we're talking about, how challenging it is. But I noticed you didn't say read the book and all of the books. You didn't say that.
Well, that comes without saying. I said I enjoyed the book. I did not. Well, definitely, I would say, yeah, read the book. Definitely. Okay, well, you put in the plug to read the book, but you know what? Thank you for permitting me to continue to be a teacher in terms of, dipping into my teaching. So read the book. All right. Shame on me. Okay.
And so you can compare and you'll have plenty of time to do it.
Yeah.
Because you got till 2023. And it's a huge book, but read fast. So that's Dune 2022. You've heard our review. You've heard our things we've referred you to watch. So that you've heard what we think. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, put the little comments down there, and we respond. We respond to all of our comments. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time. I'm Jeff Johnson.
2021, not 2022. 2021.
2021. Yeah.
Okay. All right, but that was my buddy Jeff Johnson, and I am Claude Faitier.
See you next time.